Hey, welcome to 4315. Happy New Year to everybody. And the prerequisite 3342, I guess a very good portion of you actually took it with me last term in the fall. But I believe a good number of you also took it back in the winter. But I heard that you also watched my lecture. So in some way, we studied together before. But anyway, welcome to the course. And then today, the plan mainly is to go over the course syllabus just to make sure you understand how the grading is going to be done, and also the lecture structure you will see. And then if time permitted, we can try to do a little bit of introduction, but we'll get to the more substantial stuff maybe on Wednesday, and also next week. And your lab session will be starting from this Thursday in Lausanne 1006. TA will start being there from next week, but not this week. However, I will be there myself. So I will be there I will release your lab number 1, hopefully by the end of Wednesday. I'll try to make it early Wednesday. You can take a look at lab number 1 and then just come to the lab session on Thursday and ask me questions, okay? The lab attendance, by the way, is optional. You only need to be there when there is a scheduled test. But I do encourage you to come if you got questions related to the labs or the course materials in general. Luckily, this term, my schedule doesn't clash with the lab hours, so I can be there almost every lab. So if you want to speak to me, for example, if you cannot make it to my office hour, the lab session is also another way to catch me for questions, any sort. I'll talk more about it. It's all on the syllabus. All right, so let's now go over some slides over here. Okay, just talk about administrative issues, and then we talk introduction to the course if we got time today. All right, for myself, if you don't know, just call me Jackie. So if you want to call me Professor Jackie, Professor Wang, that's fine. I'm quite informal, so feel free to address me by my first name. I don't mind at all. All right, so anytime, if you need advice about the course, let me know. If there's certain learning materials you want me to also try to craft for you, you can let me know. I'll definitely consider. So there will be a bonus opportunity to fill out some midterm course evaluation, usually during the reading week. So I will reach out to you. So if you guys can reach certain response rate, I'll definitely give everybody some bonus. I'll reach out to you. And also by attending the classes, I will also give you guys some bonus by using iClicker. I'll also speak about it. The details are all on the syllabus. All right, so just let me know anytime you want to improve your learning, if necessary. Just let me know, earlier than later. Just in case you have not enrolled in the course yet, you want to send me an email right away with your name, student number, passport, York ID. I'll give you access to the e-class, so you can also get access to the lab right away. Okay? And also for your written test, which I'll speak a little more about it also has to be done over e-class using multiple choice, in person. Okay. All right, good. All right, for class protocol. Okay, this one here is a bit unpleasant to say, but I'll just say it once, okay? But I'm pretty sure everybody is gonna be very careful about this. So I think all of us have been a presenter yourself. So I would say, please just try to avoid the following behavior I will describe. Not necessarily you have done it. I'm just saying that's a very small number of students in my class in the past, they have done that, which I don't really feel 100% offended, but I just felt a little bit unpleasant. I'll just mention that if you can avoid that as much as possible, that'd be so much appreciated. Right, so please try not to talk. We will try to maintain one person talking at a time policy. I'm quite sensitive to noise. So when I present to you the course material, I really want to concentrate on myself and also to your questions. So please, if you really want to speak up about your mind, just raise your hand and then no problem. But please try to avoid talking to people around you. I'm quite sensitive to that. And if you come here just to do on your laptop to do some other coursework, I'd rather you not come here to do it. Please do it elsewhere. Okay. And mobile phone, just keep it to the minimum. I understand that sometimes you may have some emergent, like urgent message to check or some urgent call to make. Please just keep it to a minimum. Right. So these are the main protocol I would really appreciate if everybody can follow. We'll just try to make also the class as engaging as possible about the course material. That's what you're here for. Okay. All right, the slides I'm going to make available to you, they're fairly self-contained. So normally I don't really read off the bullet points a lot. instead, what I will try to do is I'll try to explain more in detail about the course concept and illustrate with lots of examples. That's my style. So we'll see how that works. If you really prefer sometimes for me to go over some bullet point in the slide, just let me know. I'll be happy to spend some time as well. Okay, your engagement. Please just ask questions anytime. Okay, writing email to me, I'm quite informal. You don't need to be formal when you write me an email. Just with some courtesy will be appreciated, right? Just go over the example, you will see my point. However, I really, really prefer in-person communication. I think it's way more effective, especially sometimes you want to clarify a certain concept. I think over email, sometimes it cannot be so effective for me to kind of resolve the issues with you. Or you got any issues about grading, anything about the course performance, I would encourage you to just come to me. If you really cannot come to campus, we can schedule some Zoom call. That's fine too, all right? So in-person communication. So that would mean sometimes you might get very slow or simply no response from me. That simply means I'm happy to see you in person. That's the implicit message, okay? So please, don't get offended if I don't get back to you right away. Right? That's because I just prefer to talk to you in person. All right, for course information. So there is a single e-class site over here. And if you click on the link, but I'm pretty sure that's already on your e-class dashboard. Right now, not too much information there, but you can see, I'll tell you what you can check. So there is the announcement section here. I try to record every lecture, so you can, after attending the class, you can still revisit them, the parts that you don't quite get the first time. That's really to your advantage. So whenever the recording of the day is available, I'll reach out to you by announcement. So please check your email regularly. And for study materials, if you click on this link, that will link you to this particular lecture site. I'll go over the structure for this site in just a moment. Okay, so this is mainly the place where you will need to get slides, lecture recording, iPad notes, and etc. That's the study material. Okay, for e-class, it's mainly just announcement, and also I will post the lab solution and instruction on the e-class, so it's kind of protected by your PPY login. And also for your written test, you're also going to do it over the e-class. There will be programming tests as well. I'll speak more about it. All right, so that's about lecture site. I'll go over the structure in just a moment. Let me go back. Okay, e-class announcement. So lab exercises, solution, written test. Okay, and also at the moment, I also gave you some suggested reading, optional, but it can give you some background about the course, right? I will encourage you to skim through it. That will give you a little bit more motivation about why we're doing the course this way, especially using TLA+, which you will see in lab number 1. All right, that's good. Okay, the required study material will be the site I just showed to you. Okay, so if you just go there. So if you actually want to go to my campus office, it's Lassam Building 2043, second floor. Should be quite easy to find. And also, if you want to connect to me over Zoom, you can also do that. That's a link, always there. Okay. And then, since we're going to actually use a particular programming-like language for this course, called TLA Plus tool. So individual files, you may actually want to back it up in a systematic way. So for those of you who haven't really used GitHub before, you can feel free to do that. Might be nice to really try practicing GitHub before you graduate, right? Now that it's a 4th year course. And for this part here, completely optional, but I'll leave some reference over here for you just in case you need it. All right, under lectures here, we're going to go over course syllabus, but there's a copy over there. Please just notice that I might still make some minor changes until January 20th. I don't imagine there will be many, but if I do make some changes, I will let you know explicitly which part has been changed. But we'll talk about it, course syllabus for sure. And the slides I'm using now, you can also get access to it. So that's a weekly schedule. If you click on that, you will see that. All right, so just tell you the items related to this course. So we got our lecture today and also Wednesday. By the way, this room happened to be double booked with another course, which I just learned now. I'm going to speak to the department right after today, and then we might have to change the classroom, which is not a bad thing. Actually, this room, I didn't like it too much anyway, but we'll see. Okay, I'll keep you posted. But please, on Wednesday, that one's for sure, we're going to go to another room, the STEM and lecture hall, which will be a little bit further. But for Monday lecture room, I'll keep you posted. And the office hour, where you can speak to me about the course-related subjects will be from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. from Monday to Thursday. Okay, I'll speak more about it once I go to the syllabus. And also your lab session will be from 9 to 10 a.m. on Thursday. All right. So again, lab attendance will be optional. You don't get any penalty by not attending it. However, you got to make sure, which I'll talk about the scheduled lab test date. There will be 2 written tests and also 2 programming tests. You got to make sure you show up to those 4 sessions for your test. Those are the 4 required attendance. But other than that, you can feel free to come. I will mostly be there, and the TA for sure will be there to answer your questions. If you need any help on the TLA Plus or even the course materials, just go there and you will be assisted. All right. And then we also got the semester calendar. And this one here, I'll go over with you once I go to the syllabus. This one here basically shows the deadline that you can expect. Okay. I'll talk about it. Just give me a moment. Okay, so, and then this will be the lecture by lecture row. You will see the slides, iPad notes, and also I'll try to give you guys maybe the template I'm using. For those of you who also use the tablet, I'll start doing that from Wednesday lecture, okay? So whatever iPad notes I'm gonna use to start building up the annotation, you can also download it to your tablets if that can help. I'll do that from Wednesday. I'll make sure I do that. And you can also see the recording for the lecture, okay, which I'm doing now. And that's it. Okay. Yeah, this slide you can just check regularly. If there's any change, any new item to be added, I will always make an announcement so you will know when to reload your browser. Any questions so far? Okay, if that's clear, I'll just move on. Okay, course syllabus, I'll talk about it, just a few more items. I'll try to record a lecture entirely every time, but please try not to take it as a replacement for coming to classes. I think coming to classes, you know, even if you just get 50%, 60% comprehension, it's not bad at all. So some subjects we're going to talk about are pretty easy, pretty straightforward, but the rest will be quite tricky, especially the temporal logic that we're going to talk about in this course. That one is going to be something I believe none of you may have seen that before, which is good. You're learning something new. All right, so I really encourage you to come. And to really encourage you to come, I'll give you guys some bonus by coming to classes. I'll talk about the scheme in just a moment. All right, aim for maximum comprehension, ask questions, take notes, and then you can reiterate the recording. And it will be your call, either use the recording as a review or as a replacement for the lecture. All right, anyway, I'll leave that choice to you. Okay, let's now go over the syllabus. Okay, but if you got any question, please just interrupt me. Okay, course syllabus. All right, so you can also download a copy from the lecture site. Okay. Oh, just in case, sometimes you don't really have access to the e-class, how can you search for the lecture site? Very easy. Go to Google, just search for me, EECS. YorkU, that should be enough. Just find myself and then go to my homepage and then go under lectures. And you will see 4315 right there. For the lecture site, you don't need any login. It's public. Okay, just go there whenever you need to. Okay. Okay, so let's now talk about syllabus. Okay, policy. Okay, for your labs, there will be 4 labs in total, okay, which you will see in the grading scheme. 4 labs in total. And they're more like a participation marks, meaning that you don't need to have any stress about losing marks for the labs as long as you submit them by the deadline. Okay, so for every lab, I'm going to give you very explicit instruction about, for example, how you can export the projects and which files you should really submit. Please just make sure you submit by the deadline. Okay. And the deadline will be very strict. So that's the only thing I'm asking from you. Of course, you got to learn the stuff before the deadline. And since the lab mark will be guaranteed anyway, you can feel free to ask TA or myself even the solution before the deadline. So you can start learning about the stuff maybe earlier. But of course, usually I wouldn't give you the solution directly. I'll try to lead you a little bit to the solution. But just feel no stress about getting the marks for the labs. Okay, but of course, so here, let me see, let me highlight something here. So the formats of your labs and the subsequent programming tests, they are identical in terms of their format. So I think you'll be your best interest to really try to, for example, sometimes to download some starter projects, export into something for submission. So these will be good opportunities for you to practice, for the actual programming test. So once you maybe not lab number one. Lab number one is more about how you can use the tool. You may have something to submit at the end, but you will see the instruction. But starting from lab number 2, 3, and 4, you'll definitely see some stuff that's kind of very similar to the actual programming test. Okay. So your best interest to really make sure is you're true and best attempt. We don't really check your labs. We give you a solution, and we'll give you as much help as possible before and after the submission deadline, but we don't really grade it. So don't worry too much about if you got too many errors in the actual submission, you don't lose any mark. As long as you submit by the deadline, you get full marks, all right? May sound too good to be true, but that's true, all right? All right, so you can read a little bit more about item number 1, but I basically already talked about the essence of this policy here. Any confusion, let me know. The lab deadline will be very strict, so please make sure you don't miss it. I will normally try to remind you almost every class, and also to remind you maybe the day before the submission. So please don't miss that. Don't miss that credits. And for your written test and programming test, they also got strict, stringent deadline. You got to make sure you show up to the lab in person. Okay, that one should be quite straightforward. And for your final exam, it will be scheduled by the register office. We normally will know that after the reading week. Okay, it's going to be a 3-hour exam. Okay. All right, so for the test dates and location, and the test dates are pretty much fixed. So you can feel free to put them on your calendar, okay? And you also see the more visual summary about everything. But this one just textual. But if you want to mark on your calendar, make sure you show up to them. You should really do that. And the location, excuse me, the location for the test will be Lausanne Building 1006. That's exactly the place where you take the test. Sorry, you usually go for the scheduled lab session. Okay, location and the dates. Good. And normally the test will be about 1 hour. That's the natural limit for the lab, because our lab is only for 1 hour. I cannot give you more than that. But for those of you who need accommodation, I do have some section there to say what you should really do. For the accommodation, I will also do that accordingly, so don't worry. But for at least almost all of you, it's going to be roughly about 1 hour or 15 minutes, around that range. Okay. Okay, for your test, of course, it should be individual work, but for your labs, you can feel free to collaborate. There's no cheating issues, okay, about labs. I encourage you guys to really work on the lab together as long as you learn the stuff. That's more of my concern, okay? Okay, you can read about plagiarism. It only applies to the tests, okay? Okay, what if you miss a test, either for programming test or written test? So please make sure you initiate a communication to me to say, Jackie, I missed the test by the end of the test day. So test day usually happens on Thursday. Please let me know by the end of that Thursday. So I will let you know the next step. Usually I'll schedule some makeup tests for you, usually. Okay. But of course, you gotta give me some valid excuse why you will miss the test, and then we'll go from there. Okay. So that's a strict policy there, but also reasonable. And for those of you who need accommodation, please also reach out to me, okay, by the coming Friday. Okay, yeah, question.
You mentioned that test days are usually on Thursday. Are lab tests during the lab or?
During the lab, yes, exactly.
Are labs on Wednesday? No? Oh no, it's Thursday.
Thursday.
You have a class.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you will see this calendar as well. Yeah, lectures Monday, Wednesday, and lab on Thursday. Okay. All right. Okay, for accommodation, yeah, so for those of you who need accommodation, please also read this section here and just follow that. And again, if you are not enrolled yet, assume that you're eventually going to enroll into the course and got to follow up everything that we're going to start doing from today and most likely latest on Wednesday. Okay. Guys, any question about the policy? Good. All right, that's good. Okay, for instructor, I got my email here, jackie@eecs.yorku.ca. Okay, and the website, I also showed to you how you can get to it. And just I prefer in-person communication, just repetition of that. And for office hour, it will be from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m., Monday to Thursday. Please just know that I also got another course teaching this term, 2101, the data structure course. But I think if you guys really come, but we'll see, first come, first serve. But if you guys actually got some tests on that particular week, I'll give you guys priority. Okay, so don't worry. I think it should be okay. Yeah. If it turns out office hour are really not enough, I'll try to extend them. But I think it should be good for now. Okay, so here's the thing. So this is something I'm trying for this semester. Let's see how that works. Last semester, I only make 1 day office hour for Zoom only. But for this time, I'm trying to make like a hybrid mode. So here's how it works. So for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so I will definitely be in my office, unless I told you that I will not be in the office for that particular day. I can assume that I will be there. And for those of you who come to the in-person office hour, you will be given priority. At the same time, I will also launch my Zoom URL. You can find that on the lecture site. And if there's nobody in my office there, I'll try to answer your Zoom call as well. Okay, that's how it's going to work. Okay. But if you really got some very urgent issue, you have to speak to me over Zoom, just drop me an email beforehand so I will know. I can expect you to get connected during the office hour. All right, again, my office and also my Zoom URL. Okay. And for the office hour, you don't need to book any appointment, just show up. Okay. Okay, for our lecture, you can see we got Monday and also Wednesday, but very likely this location here is going to change, but I'll let you know as soon as I got some update from the department. I'll speak to them right after today's class. And for schedule lab, everybody will be in the same session, only one session. 1 hour, 9 to 10, Thursday, lesson 106. Right? And the E-class site, I talk about it. Okay, there's only a single one. And that's a lecture site. There's no textbook required. There might be some tutorial book on TLA Plus. I can suggest them to you. I'll try to include them maybe a little bit later. But study my slides and also any resources I pointed out in the lab, they should be enough. You don't need to do any extra reading. But focus on these resources and really get the stuff understood and try to practice them as much as possible. That'll be the way to do well in this course. Okay, as a summary, what kind of help can you get from this course? My office hour, and also for TA office hour. You can definitely speak to the TA during the scheduled lab session. One of the TA will be there in person, but we are also going to make it on demand. I'm going to put several, maybe 1 or 2 TA's email on the E-class site. So whenever you got any questions, most likely related to the lab, you can also reach out to the TA by email. So they are the student who took this course before, so they also know the stuff pretty well. So if you really want to take advantage of this on demand, you can also do that. I'm going to put the email maybe starting from lab number 1. It's not there yet, but I will do that. Okay. And the scheduled lab session, when I say starting from week 2, but I will release the lab most likely on Wednesday, and I will be there myself. When I say week 2, I really meant the TA will be there starting from week number 2. But you should really come to the lab, see what's going on from this Thursday already. Okay. All right, good. Okay, prerequisite 3342. I think I will, in the introduction lecture, in the introduction part, I'll do some comparison about the formal approach that we're trying to follow in 3342 versus this course. It's actually kind of interesting to see how the two approaches are kind of differ from each other. Okay, that's something we'll see. Okay, 3342, I'm pretty sure you're here because you completed that. And we'll get to the course description a little bit later. Actually, you can read it, right? But let me go over a little bit about the CLOs, course learning outcomes, a little bit. Okay, they may not make much sense just yet, but that's something we want to achieve by the end of the course. Okay, okay. So course learning outcomes over here. So today, hopefully we can explain to you about the difference between safety critical and also mission critical. All right. So these two are the more frequently mentioned terms in the industry. But for business critical and security critical, they're quite self-explanatory from the terms, but we'll focus more on these two. Right? Just make sure you also we can satisfy this learning outcome right away from today, hopefully. Okay. Okay, good software engineering practices for critical system. So the practices we are doing in this course, which I'll give you some resources, some reference, is called formal method. Meaning that we don't really focus on just coding and unit testing. We're doing something using mathematics, what you learned in 1090. In 3342, you basically have a rodent tool. You try to declare your machine with variables, invariants, and also events. And then you can somehow turn them into proof obligation. And you will try to discharge them by using the so-called sequence proof, right? That's what you learned in 3342. We're still following the consistent approach using mathematics in this course, but it's going to be a different flavor, which I'll speak more about, okay? Either today or Wednesday. Okay, and this one here, certification evidence. This is to say, whenever you want to somehow justify that your system is fit for use, you have to give some evidence, okay? Usually, it's your system is fit for use. And I'll give you also some interesting literature to show to you how usually people present the evidence for certifying the system. We'll get there, okay? Okay, and then using this part here, deductive approach. This is what you learned back in 3342. And we got algorithmic approaches, which is 4315. Okay, so just in case you're wondering, for algorithmic approaches, it doesn't really mean you're going to learn about some model checking algorithm where you're going to implement. No, you don't really do that. The algorithm for model checking has been implemented in the tool that we're going to use. But you're just supposed to know some basic reasoning and how things are supposed to work at a conceptual level in this course. And maybe not today, but on Wednesday, I'm actually going to give you one small example, like a very simple integer counter. And then I'm going to illustrate to you by verifying the same counter system, how can we do it using deductive approach, like what you did in 3342, versus how we're going to do it in 4315. Give you some intuition. So that's something you can try to really understand right away in the course. You really want to think about this course and 3342. They're really like a pair for formal methods. Okay, and then, okay, so again, course learning outcome number 6 is just about comparison, comparing these two approaches. And throughout the course, whenever I see anything that's interesting in TLA plus, but also we can draw some comparison to rodent. I'll do that whenever applicable. And for industrial strength tools, and this one here, what we're using in this course is something called TLA plus. Okay, you will see more about it. It's already on the remote labs. So once you receive lab number 1 instruction, I will guide you through how to use it. Okay, you will see that. Okay, and just more about the industrial strength tools. If you go to the E-class, you will see that I included 2 papers over there, and you can see the second one there is about TLA plus, and Amazon actually uses TLA plus. So it does have some industrial application. So for those of you who might be interested in learning more about the story about Amazon using TLA plus, you can feel free. But you're definitely going to use it extensively for this course. And in your programming test, you will be tested, your knowledge on that. Not just about conceptual knowledge, but also how you can use TLA plus on the programming tool. All right. Yeah, for those of you who might be interested, look at the paper. Okay, and if you want to have some discussion, just drop by. Okay, that's good. Syllabus. Okay, that's about CLOs. Okay, let me just make sure. Okay, good. Okay, grading scheme. Okay. Okay, so we got 4 labs in total, and then you will receive 1.25% if you submit by the deadline. So you get 5% participation. Okay, and there will be another 5%, which will be not part of the grading scheme. It's more like a bonus. So that one will be attendance bonus, which I'll speak about a little bit later. Attendance bonus. Okay, you can think about 10%. You can definitely get very easily just by showing up and then make sure you submit by the deadline. 10% secured. There will be 2 programming tests, programming test 1 and 2, 10 and 13%. The second one there is going to somehow related to the first one. They will have some overlapping coverage. So in some way that will be to your advantage because you have studied that already and got some feedback from programming test 1. So that's why I make it slightly heavier. And you will get written test 1 and written test 2. Okay, you will see the timing of these two tests also on the calendar. And the biggest one is the exam, cumulative. Okay, just give me one moment, please. That will be 50%. Right, it's going to be on paper, 3 hours, and then it's going to test your knowledge of applying all the concept that we spoke about in the course from day 1. Question, please.
Oh, I was wondering, so what's the format of the written test? Is that multiple
Sure.
choice?
Yeah, multiple choice. Yes, I'm glad you asked. Let's now talk more about it. So, you know what? How about I make it, let me write it here. So they will be, in addition to the exam, let's talk about it. I think that's important to clarify. So you got the most important component will be the exam. It's going to be 3 hours. And then it's going to be cumulative, covering everything. And you'll be scheduled during the exam period, sometime in April. And it will be allowed for single-sided data sheets. For those of you who took 3342 with me, so you have seen that already. But it will be allowed to use a data sheets. I'll speak more about it when we get closer to the exam period. Okay, and then the exam will be mostly short answer question. Short answer question. That means very limited. I would say almost no multiple choice. That's where we can see how you can express yourself and also how you can show that you really got the knowledge of applying the concept, right? That's about the exam. I'll speak more about it after the reading week. Okay, let's talk about something that's more relevant, at least in a short term. Written test, okay? So written test, you got 2 of them. They will be mostly multiple choice. Okay, more specifically, so for each question there, you may have either one correct answer or you may have multiple correct answers. And by the design of E-class, if you got multiple correct answers, if you choose the wrong answer, you get a negative mark. I didn't design a scheme, E-class does, all right? Anyway, so when I release the guide for each written test, you will see how the scheme works. It's a fair scheme, okay? Don't be too terrified, okay? So it's either one or more correct answers. Okay? Yeah, I'll give you guys an example as well before each written test, so you can get some idea about the format for the test. Okay, and then, okay, mostly multiple choice, not accumulative. And then I'll give you some idea once we get to the calendar. You'll see roughly how things are going to cover. I might choose, for example, in written test number 2, I might say there are certain parts from written test 1 I would like to cover again, but I'll let you know explicitly. It's possible, okay? Okay, and then it's going to be done over E-class. However, it's going to be done in person. It doesn't really mean you're going to do it remotely. No, you're going to come to the lab, and the machines will be booted to the lab test mode, and you got to do it over E-class. Okay. Okay. Does that answer your question about written test? Okay, good. Okay, programming test. And also we got 2 programming tests. Okay. You're going to again, it's going to be in person for sure. And then you're going to use the TLA Plus toolbox. All right, so that's highly relevant to your lab number 1, which I'll show you the relevant features you're supposed to learn. It's not a bad tool to really learn. If you really ask my honest opinion, I would say it might be a more user-friendly tool to you as opposed to Rodin. So that's good news for those of you who might struggle a bit with the Rodin. Okay, but TRA Plus Toolbox is quite a nice programming-like tool. You will see once you get to lab number 1. Okay, and then let me see, in person TRA Plus to okay, so similar to lab exercises. Okay. Oh, one thing I definitely should say. For the programming test, since I call it programming, that means submitted code should compile. And of course, as you actually struggle through each individual lab, you will see what the common errors are for example, how you do the if statements, how you do the loops, how you do module, etc. So once you struggle through in the labs, you should be able to get through them in the actual programming test. Right? It's more like a programming test. But if your submitted code doesn't really compile, we'll apply some penalty and then go on with some partial marks. Not direct 0, not really. Okay. Okay. Partial marks possible. How about that? Okay, and another thing that's also important, okay, so that's number 1 and also number 2. It's a programming test, but even though we do expect you to be very familiar with the TRA Plus language, it's something called PlusCal. You will see that in lab number 1. Okay, I'll just mention the name. So there is a dialect in TRA Plus called PlusCal. Okay, you will see this word very frequently. Okay. So the syntax for PlusCal, you should really know them pretty well by just doing the labs. However, in the actual test, we will also give you the syntax document for PlusCal. So just in case you have to remind yourself about certain syntax, you can also refer to them. I will also make this document available pretty early, so you can also get yourself familiar about the document so you know where to find during the test. The syntax guide will be available during the test. All right. Okay, so these are the 3 main assessments for the course, pretty much. Okay. Any question? Yeah, but as I promised, before each one of them, I will definitely give you some guidance about the format and also the coverage and also some tips about how you're supposed to prepare for them. Okay, so you can just focus more on the lectures before the test comes. And when the test comes, just review your labs and do the example questions. And I would say if you always ask for maybe some extra practice, you can also maybe try to search online. There might be different problems you can search for. I can only give you some limited number, but just don't restrict yourself just to my problems. Okay. Good. Okay, that's good. Sorry. There we go. Okay, that's about the test, the grading scheme. All right, we're going to stick to this grading scheme. Okay. And I'll talk about this 5% bonus very soon. Okay, I'll get there. Okay, some justification for having a very substantial final exam. You can read it. I don't need to read it. But it's really to make sure you can really connect the dots together. Okay, the workload for this course will be pretty much standard. So Lassonde says for every credits, it should be about 3 to 4.5 hours. If you do the math, you'll be from 9 to 13.5 hours per week. Sometimes you might need more, sometimes you might need less. It depends. And what's required, I would say, definitely come to the classes, okay? And also, you can, you want to make sure you complete the lab assignments. And also, any extra study time you might need, okay? And when every assessment has some percentage, as you can see over here. And then once you receive the row marks out of 100, for example, for each one of them, I'm going to calculate the weighted sum at the end. So you get some numerical marks out of 100 at the end of the day, at the end of the semester. And then I'm just going to map your row marks out of 100 to letter grades. Very standard, no trick here. And I do have some example here. You can take a look. Okay, I'm not going to bother you with that. Just in case you don't understand exactly what I meant by weighted sum, you can check it here. Okay, very standard. All right, guys, any questions so far? Okay, we're good? All right. Now it's important. Let's now talk about how we can make sure every one of you will get the 5% attendance bonus. Okay, I really want you to get it. Okay, so here. Okay, so subtracting today's class, we should get 23 classes in total remaining. All right. And I would suggest after today, please download maybe iClicker and install it on your mobile phone. It turns out, well, just according to what student told me earlier, the iClicker works better on mobile phone as opposed to laptop. So you may want to try it. You can install on both, but I would say maybe mobile phone will be the safest bet. Okay, install iClicker. And then for the coming Wednesday, when we meet in the Stedman lecture hall, let's do some trial attendance so we can just run the flow together. So just to see how that works. And maybe starting from next Monday, hopefully either we are still here, or maybe we are in another classroom. We can start doing the real thing for attendance check. Okay. Okay, attendance will be done randomly. Okay. Okay, this is something I'll just introduce this term. Okay. Hopefully I don't need to use it. Okay. It's a very, very rare. I would say not many students would do that, but I just don't feel that very comfortable when you are just waiting for me to take attendance and leave the classroom right away after I've done that. Not very good, okay? So what I would do this term doesn't really mean I'm gonna do that every time. Every time I take attendance for a particular class, I might take it just once, or I might take it another time, maybe take a third time. Most likely, if I say after taking the first check, and then a good number of you simply walk away because I have taken attendance, I might take it a second time once you're done, you're gone, okay? And the rule will be, in order to receive the proper attendance for a class, you have to be present for every check. If you miss one check, you don't get it. I want to be fair to everybody as well. For those of you who really stay here to learn the stuff throughout the class, I think you deserve the bonus, for sure, okay? And of course, you know, if you really felt that you have very low comprehension level from each class, that's okay. That's why I'm here, always ready to answer questions. Anyway, guys, please watch out for this policy here. I just introduced it for this term, but I really hope that I don't need to use it, okay? Because it does take time, right? It does eat up some time from our lecture. Normally, I will start taking attendance about between 5 minutes after and 5 minutes before the class, right? So normally I would do that somewhere in the middle. And when I do the attendance check, I'll also take a short break for a few minutes so everybody can just refresh a bit. All right, so there'll be no makeup attendance if you missed it. If you arrived late, left early, or somehow you said, oh, I didn't pay attention. Please, no excuse. It's quite a small classroom. There's no way you can miss it, right? No, normally when I do it, I will announce that very explicitly we're doing attendance. So there's no way you can miss it, all right? So please, make sure. Okay, so you can, for every class, I don't necessarily take attendance for every class, but I'll try to take as much as possible. Okay, so always have the iClicker on your mobile phone, hopefully, ready. And then, according to experience, it's very rare that your iClicker doesn't work. Okay, so I would say I would normally bring a sign-up sheet just in case your iClicker doesn't work, but please take the responsibility to fix any issue you might have on the iClicker. So I will only give you a maximum of 2 times to sign up on the sheets. That's really to make sure you really solve the issues for the iClicker, but it should not be difficult to solve. I included a link over here, very small font size, but when you get a syllabus, just click on that. It does show you the normal troubleshooting tips about using iClicker. That should not be an issue, right? So hopefully you don't even need it once even, okay? Just make sure, take responsibility to make sure iClicker always works. All right, and that's just a bonus scheme. All right, so if you attend 90% of the class, you'll get 5% bonus. If you miss 20% or more classes, you can only get about 4% and etc. Okay, a very clear scheme. I do have a program to calculate exactly that, no trick. Okay, some example here, you can take a look. And the iClicker only applies to lectures. I don't use iClicker to take attendance during the lab. We don't do that. Okay, lab is optional. Okay, and one thing to see, for example, let's say if we take attendance for 23 times, you can see in order for you to get 5% bonus, you have to attend 21 or more lectures. That means you're able to miss maybe 2 lectures without compromising the bonus you will get. So the allowable quota for you to miss classes does accommodate if you have some emergency, if you're maybe not feeling so well, it does cover that. So please, we don't accept any excuses for missing the attendance check, okay? So the allowance quota between each threshold already accommodate for that, okay? That's something I just want to emphasize. Okay. Okay, just, yep. For the rest, please just read it through. Just make sure you're clear about the policy. And then for before Wednesday, please click on this link over here. It does show to you how you can install iClicker. But if you were my student before, you may have iClicker already. So but for those of you who haven't, please download it and install that. And please be sure you really enter your student number correctly, because I do depend on that in my program to calculate your final bonus. If you enter wrong student number, too bad. All right, please double check before you create your account. And they will also ask you to really enter your official York email. Make sure you also spell that properly. Okay, so there's some instruction here, very easy to follow. Okay, and then make sure it's not using eClass. eClass has nothing to do with the iClicker we're doing. Okay, and you want to search for this course over here, EECS4315-Z. I think once you type this, most likely you will see that right away. Okay, so make sure you enroll in this course, and every time when I start the attendance session, you will be able to check in. Okay, we'll see. We'll do that trial attendance on Wednesday. And very important to make sure you allow the app to really use your location. So I think most likely the way to fix your iClicker during the session will be you may want to disable your location service on your mobile phone and enable that again. That seems to be the quick fix. Okay, you can give it a try. All right. All right, any question about attendance over here? Today doesn't count, but I'm glad you came. All right, good. Okay, let's talk about the semester calendar, okay, which is important as well. Okay, so we are here, lecture number 1, and then lab number 1 is going to take week number 1, 2, and 3. I will try to release your lab around Wednesday, okay? That's something I will try to do. It's basically ready. I just need to finalize some details. So lab number 1 released. So you can take the rest of the day or on Wednesday to take a look at lab number 1, just understand roughly how it's supposed to, what you're kind of expected to do. And then on Thursday, I will be there in the lab. You can ask me questions, or if you got any issues about the course, I'll be there. And normally, I will make the lab due on Friday. Okay, I will let you know the precise time on the instruction. And after lab number 1, we'll get lab number 2. So whatever you learn about the tool, how to use the TLA Plus tool, you will, from lab number 1, you will use that in lab number 2, and etc. Okay. Okay, your first assessment will be programming test 1, right before the reading week. So that means until this point here, you got about 4+ weeks to learn about the tool. I think that's a fair amount of time for you to get used to the tool, all right? Okay, programming test 1 here. And then after the reading week, you got your written test number 1, okay? For written test number 1, I'm not going to cover these 2 lectures. That'll be too short of time, all right? So I'm going to cover everything until lecture 14 for written test 1, okay? Roughly speaking. So written test 1 is going to cover from lecture number 1 to lecture 14, all right? And then when you see written test number 2, I'm not going to cover these 2. They will be for maybe the exam, okay? So it will be, roughly speaking, it could be from, maybe from 15, right? So that's something we didn't cover in written test 1, lecture 15 to lecture 20, and plus maybe some overlap from written test 1. I'll let you know precisely the coverage, but that's roughly the plan. So that means before the drop deadline, but hopefully nobody will drop. For many of you, it might be the last course. I don't think you want to drop, right? So, but anyway, so before this deadline, I will give you, you will get a result for written test 1 and also programming test 1. And also for all the labs you have submitted up to that point, you can also assume you got full marks, right? I think you got enough percentage before the drop deadline. Okay. And the exam will be over here. We'll see how lucky we are this time. If the exam is pretty, we'll give you at least one review session and some extra office hour to answer your question about the exam. But if we got even longer weeks, we'll see. But anyway, so at least one. Okay. We'll see how late the exam might be. All right, any question about the calendar here? We good? All right. All right, so let's now try to go back to the syllabus. Okay, so the coverage is only tentative, right? So I will confirm the precise coverage once we get closer to the test. The weekly schedule, I already spoke about them. So for office hour, I will be in my office today, 3 p.m. I might be working on some other stuff, but if you really want to drop by for something you want to talk about, it's okay. You can drop by. But otherwise, I'll see you on Wednesday. But for sure, tomorrow, 3 to 4 p.m., I will be there as well. So feel free to come to the office hour if you want to. Okay. All right, so the lecture topics will be, we definitely will cover TLA Plus and Pascal. Mostly, you will learn about these from the labs. Maybe every time, if there's a particular part I do find you guys are struggling through before the lab submission deadline, I can try to talk about them, maybe briefly in the lecture. And also, maybe after I release the lab solution, I can also go over a little bit about the solution, give you some highlights as well. Okay, but mostly, you'll learn about these TLA Plus and the language from the labs. Okay, mostly. We don't talk too much about Pascal and TLA Plus in the actual lecture. And the main thing will be, we're going to talk about some new logic called temporal logic. Okay, so it's something called linear temporal logic. Don't worry too much about the acronym. You will know them pretty well by the end of the course. I just want for your information. LTL, and also there's another one we're going to learn as well. Last time when I taught 4315 back in winter 23, I didn't have time to cover that, but this time I really want to cover that. It's really good for your knowledge, at least a bit. So this one is called computation tree logic. Both are very interesting concepts to really challenge your mind. So I think that you deserve to know that kind of stuff before you graduate. Okay, and then there's another thing that we're going to cover, which is called program verification and Hoare logic. Okay, and Hoare logic here is going to require some predicate logic. So we will have to have a little bit overlap with 3342. So maybe on starting from Wednesday or maybe next Monday, I will just spend not too much time. You know, it should not be the focus. I will do a little bit of review on the predicate logic about universal quantification, existential quantification, etc. Right? That's something you guys should really brush up a little bit. Because for those of you who learned about 3342 almost a year ago, right, you may have forgotten about the details, which is understandable. Okay? Predicate logic and also propositions. Okay? So tentatively, so these are the three main topics that we're going to cover for the course. Quite a lot. Okay? Quite a lot. All right. That's the end of the syllabus, guys. Any question about the syllabus? All right. If no, let me go back to the slides. Okay. If no question here, how about this? I got about 20 minutes, and then I do have some slides to go over. How about it? Let me go over the remaining slides very quickly, and then we'll see how much time left. We might just go over some introduction stuff for about 10 minutes, and I'll let you guys go earlier today. Right? We'll do the more serious stuff on Wednesday. All right, good. Just a few more slides, and we'll take a very short break. All right, you guys are studying software engineering, so you'll become a software engineer. So on Wednesday, I'll also give you guys idea about code ethics, about becoming a software engineer. But for today, not yet. Okay, software engineer. So maybe you will be given some problems, you'll be given some API specification, like in 2030, you might be given some use cases, and then you have to run JUnit test cases, right? Regression testing. So for those of you who took the software engineering testing course, you will know what I'm talking about, right? However, that should not be the entirety about what a software engineer should be. You should also be able to think abstractly about not precisely just about the code. The code is too low level. We want to think in terms of abstract state machine, which we have to use to reason about the system that we built in 3342 and 4315. So thinking abstractly is a very important takeaway from your degree, for sure. Okay, so for programming interview, if you learn about 2101 data structure, you kind of learn about concrete data structure. But what you really learn from this course is more about abstract state machines and relations, predicates. I can tell you that arguably, the second part over here is equally valuable for you as well. It's impact more about your thinking before you can write, before you can sketch down any design or any Java classes, right? So thinking abstractly is really something we want to focus more on. But the benefit is the mathematical language we have chosen for this course in the TIA Plus, they look reasonably close to a programming language. So in some way, it can make it a little bit more user-friendly to you, okay? All right, so, when they do interview in a big company, they don't necessarily ask you to sit in front of a workstation and do coding. They might ask you to really do the coding on a whiteboard. In that way, how do you really express yourself in a way that really show your true understanding of the problem and also the solution? I think this course can also help. I'm not saying that it's going to make you a very good thinker, but at least it can contribute towards that virtue. Okay. All right, general tips very quickly, right? Okay. Hard work is important, but you really want to click on the subject, right? It's mathematics, you know that. Just attending the classes and doing all the practice problems, unfortunately, would not necessarily guarantee you will get good results in the test. We know that pretty well. But I'm just saying that you want to make sure when you study, really understand what's going on, how things are getting connected, right? Find extra resources whenever you can, right? Don't be too satisfied just by the practice problems I give to you. You should be able to find more problems out there, to help you. Okay, hard work is important, but don't be too satisfied just by attending classes and spending hours. They are important, but they are not sufficient. How about that? Okay, go beyond the lectures. You can find more resources. Yeah, so what we're talking about, for example, TIA Plus, they also got lots of learning resources on the web. Okay, anything that may not be associated with marks, sometimes I might suggest to you, you can also give it a try, right? It's for learning. Sometimes may not be just for grades. Grades are important, but learning is also very important, if not more important. Okay, so when I say mastering the ground stuff, I really meant the basic stuff that's really covered in the lecture, right? Or some basic example. But you want to always reflect on why things work and why things do not work. That's actually the kind of question you will be getting in the actual exam. So I really want to give you some challenge during the exam to see how you can deal with the different modeling or verification scenarios, right? That's what you will be. What you have to face during the exam. All right, about why things work and why things will not work. That's also something I will try to illustrate to you when I talk about different examples, in the class. That's something we'll see. Okay. All right, a final diagram just shows to you success in general, right? I quite like that diagram. I somehow just encountered that in Amazon. But anyway, you can read it through, and that might help. All right, so that's about all the administrative issues for the course. Do you guys have any questions? Anything not clear? Okay, good. So I think that the only thing I will definitely, one thing you can definitely expect to hear from me will be about next Monday. When we come back, it may not be this classroom anymore, but I'll make sure I keep you posted. But for Wednesday, STEM and lecture hall. And for Thursday, the lab. Okay, why don't we take a 3 minutes break, and then I'll do a little bit of introductory stuff, and then I'll promise I'll let you guys go earlier. But let's cover some stuff. How about that? Okay, take a 3 minutes break, and then don't go too far. All right, so we're done with the syllabus introduction. We definitely cannot finish that today, but I'll just use me about 5 minutes. Okay, just for today, light. Okay, introduction. As I promised on Wednesday, I think the most important small example I want to illustrate is to use the same system, like a simple counter, and show to you how we can use the 3342 approach versus the 4315 approach. So you see right away how the two courses are supposed to differ. They cover pretty much the same logical stuff that you're going to solve problems logically and mathematically, but different logic, different mathematics. Okay, we're gonna talk about the difference between mission critical and safety critical. Okay, and also code of ethics for professional engineers. For those of you who might be interested in being licensed as a professional engineers, that might be something you want to pay attention to as well. And full method we'll talk about, and verification versus validation. And when you want to catch bugs or defects of your software system, what should be the stage of the developments? So this might be also a nice place to really try to link different software engineering courses in your degree just to see where you are. Okay, I'll do that. Most likely that one has to wait until Wednesday. And we're going to compare. We're really talking about model-based. Model here being formal model. Model-based developments, but in 3342, we're developing our model in Rodin, but in 4315, we are developing our model in TLA+. We'll see some fundamental difference conceptually. Okay, let's now talk about, how about just this one here? Okay, let's talk about safety critical versus mission critical. So safety critical system is a system if it fails or malfunction. This will be the following, this will be the consequences. That's how you define that. If that fails, you want to know how disastrous for the failure. This will be the worst scenario. If you cause the death or maybe harm to people, that will be the worst. Or if you cause some damage or maybe some financial loss to equipment or property, or maybe harm to the environment. So these are the three common scenarios if the mission critical actually fail. Safety critical. Okay, so I'm just going to give you some example. Usually I'll just do the brainstorm, but we can save a little bit of time. I'll give you some example that was provided by your fellow student from the past semester. If you got anything else to add, we can do that. Okay, I'll just mention a few examples here about safety critical. And by the way, safety critical here is really the highest standard you can hold on your system development. Safety critical. Nothing can be more important than safety, really. Let's do this page here quickly, and then we are done for today. Okay. So we talk about safety critical system. So safety critical systems, or acronym SCS. Okay, so one would be, for example, autopilot or auto driving. All right, and then another one. So this will be a little bit similar to what you learned in 3342 about the bridge controller. Remember, we got traffic lights, right? So if you have a system for controlling the traffic light, of course, it has very dire consequence if it fails. You got crashes of the car. Traffic lights. Or something similar. I'm not sure if you've seen that, whenever you pass through some crossroad for the train, you got some train gates, right? To kind of tell you that you should not really pass. So train gate is also very important. All right. Another one, for example, airbag. Of course, it's very safety critical. If there's any like an emergent brake you have to make for your car, you got to make sure the airbag pops up in time. Okay, and then elevator. It has to work for sure, and also escalator as well. You cannot have any sudden stop. There should be some like a backup system whenever things don't work. Escalator. Okay, I got two more. Okay. Also, we got something called pacemaker. It's definitely some example of embedded system, for sure. It has a hardware part and also the software part. And that's exactly what you guys, the future software engineers, have to know how to deal with well. You got to deal with the integration of the software and also the hardware. And for those of you who might be interested, I will encourage you to look into this. As for the pacemaker here, in McMaster University, so they have the so-called pacemaker challenge. You can just Google for that. Pacemaker challenge. And then it's by McMaster University. And you can see the description for the challenge and then what kind of solution they're looking for. Okay? When I was working as a postdoc over there, that's when they posed the challenge. Not too sure if anybody solved the challenge, but at least understanding what a challenge is will be very valuable. Okay, one more. How about nuclear power plant? Of course, if there's any potential explosion, we don't even want to think about the consequence. And equally important, for every nuclear power plant, you got at least one so-called a shutdown system. You can think about the nuclear power plant. The nuclear power plant over here is more like the environments for the shutdown system. So this is the shutdown system. And the shutdown system is constantly monitoring the variables from the nuclear power plant. So we call these the sensor variable. And it will actually, this will be like an ongoing monitoring. And whenever there's anything that's abnormal about the sensor variables, you have to send back some signal. That'll be the actuators, right? For example, if the temperature is too high, you're going to stop the nuclear power plant right away. Okay, so this kind of feedback loop kind of pattern over here may be something you have seen before. Okay, you can think to yourself about what kind of other safety critical system there might be. So that's kind of the system we are trying to deal with. That we're learning the technique about how to deal with them. All right, any question? All right, as I promised, for class number 1, I'll let you guys leave earlier. That'll be it. And when we come back on Wednesday, I'll finish the introduction and then we'll do some review on practical logic. All right, thank you so much. See you on Wednesday.